Well, good evening and welcome to NewSpace Chicago. I appreciate seeing all of you guys coming out. It's great to see everyone. We are NewSpace Chicago. We are an open community of space entrepreneurs, professionals, and other people who are interested in building space-related companies in Chicago. You might wonder, space in Chicago? What are you talking about? But we believe that Chicago is actually well positioned to be a player in the emerging new space economy. Chicago is a technology town. We do have high technology here. We have talented workforce of engineers and other technology people. We have world-class universities and research institutions here. We're a global financial center. We're a transportation hub for the entire country. If you want to ship something, you're probably going to send it through Chicago. We have all of the elements here that can make Chicago a player in the emerging global space economy. So we're here to help that happen and to encourage startups in the space industry. And we'll have an announcement about that in a few minutes. So before that, though, I'd like to shout out to our sponsors this evening. mHUB is our wonderful space here, and they also are sponsoring the refreshments, the food and drink this evening. So we shout out to them. And our other sponsor is Metropolitan Brewing. They are a craft brewery in Chicago. They were one of the first craft breweries in Chicago, and we appreciate them providing some of the beer for us. Thanks to them as well. If you have not found the restrooms, they're back down that way, the way that you came from, just this side of the very colorful mural on the wall. So we have actually a very packed agenda this evening. First of all, we have a very important announcement about a community development partnership that we have created between NewSpace Chicago, mHUB, and a company called Orbitmuse. And I'll be introducing John here in a moment, who will say more about that. We also have our main speaker this evening is Brent Abbott from AAC Microtec and Clyde Space. We'll be here talking about CubeSats and giving us a look inside a CubeSat company. And then following that, John will again give us a preview of some of the interesting offerings that Orbitmuse will be making available to people who are interested in building space startups here in Chicago. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce John Karsten. He's been in the aerospace industry for over 30 years. He is a representative of Teaching Science and Technology, TSTI. They provide educational materials in the aerospace area, and he is also here representing Orbitmuse. So, John.
Tesla. That's classic. You know, it's going past Mars right now. Just So, just a quick question. How far is a light year? One light year is 6 trillion miles. The closest star system to us is Alpha Centauri, Alpha Beta Centauri, right? 4.5 light years. So you can think that's a long ways away, a lot of miles. But anyway, just as an office, space is huge, and there's some exciting things happening. What I'd like to announce is that Orbitmuse, and I'm with Teaching Science and Technology, and we're excited to be launching groundbreaking partnerships with mHUB and NewSpace Chicago. mHUB, they facilitate, unparalleled innovative prototypes, and NewSpace Chicago has an excellent network of space entrepreneurs, and they have throughout the Midwest. And so through these efforts, we believe this location can become a center of excellence for the new space race. Everybody's heard the term of new space, right? Space 2.0 and all that stuff. And it's real. It's like the .com now that happened. And it's very exciting. you go to these conferences and they're just amazing. And so I think that this combination of folks that are here and with Orbitmuse and TSPI and AAC Clyde is going to be a pretty incredible, awesome opportunity for folks. Okay, so so what is Orbitmuse? There's really it's a comprehensive approach, right, to space entrepreneurship. And there's Boost, and it helps you finance your projects. Okay, first off, there's Masters, which provide you with education and training and events for your project to succeed. And then Habitat, it provides this place that you can build your program and collaborate with other entrepreneurs. So you can see the market verticals here, right? There are domains across the industries. But there's also the horizontal component to this. And that means that if you're doing things like systems engineering, 3D printing and all that, they can be used across these domains as well. So when you look at sensors and those types of things, they can share just like any of these other industries that create their products. So it's not just one, but you can go different directions with it if you're a component manufacturer. So this ethos for impact, well, think about Apollo. When Apollo came around, what did it do? It gave us batteries, it gave us solar cells, it gave us tank, powdered drinks, right? All those things. So when you look at these new technologies that are coming out that y'all are going to be inventing and creating and developing, that means that that is the future of products, commercial products and profit that you can make here on this planet. And they're talking about going to Mars, and they're going to be going to the moon. They want to be kind of set up on the moon to where that they have to go down the dark side. Why? Well, the dark side of the moon is difficult, and you have to develop those technologies to make that happen, right? So by going out and developing and getting immersed in that, that's going to allow you to create and make incredible products. Okay? So that's about it for right now. I'll come back and talk a little bit later about TSDI and some of the things we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We're very excited about this partnership. It is right in line with NewSpace Chicago's mission, which is to encourage space entrepreneurship in Chicago. And this partnership will provide us with a location here at mHUB where people can develop their technologies, build their companies, and so forth. And you'll have access to all of the offerings from Orbitmuse, including Boost and Habitat and Masters. So we really are looking forward to that and hope some of you out there are going to be willing to sign up and participate. As part of this, we have some t-shirts from Orbitmuse, and in order to get one of these t-shirts, you'll have to fill out a survey. So please, after the presentation, see Brendan back there, and he will be happy to have you fill out the form and then give you a t-shirt. So next, I'd like to introduce Brent Abbott. He is the CEO of AAC Microtec and Clyde Space. They are a CubeSat manufacturer, originally out of Glasgow, Scotland, as you will notice momentarily. And they also have a location in downstate Illinois, which is where Brent is actually working out. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brent Abbott.
Thanks, Dave, and congratulations on the new partnership. It sounds really neat. Dave took me around today to see mHUB, which I knew very little about, and the experimenter and the hobbyist in me, I was like, I could live here and do some stuff. Maybe get some work done. A lot of neat toys in there, as I put it with some of my friends. I'm wearing my formal kilt outfit today for really three reasons. One, I was up to see Scott Forge. It's a company up in the very northern part of the state. Real impressive facilities. You see million-ton presses cranking out parts for Atlas V launch vehicles, SpaceX, Firefly, doors for submarine missile bays, and it was just really neat stuff. They identified all of them were wearing plaid. Scott Forge, the originators had were from the Shetland Islands, so they embraced their Scottish heritage. And also, as Dave told you, a lot of our facilities are in Glasgow, so it's easy to represent them and stick in your mind. And then also I'm a direct male descendant of my urban family from Scotland. So it was kind of a nice thing, just maybe stick in your mind about where we're at and stuff. But AAC Microtec was originally in Sweden, and it still is in Uppsala, Sweden. And it was started about the same time that Clyde Space had started independently. And they merged earlier this year. The official thing is AAC bought them, but it was really more of a merger, exchange swap. So we have AAC Microtec in Uppsala, Sweden. They did small satellite electronics and stuff. And then Clyde Space, which started off doing subsystems and components for CubeSats and stuff. And then they hired me last year to help accelerate and stand up the U.S. offices for business there. And hopefully the plan is by the third quarter of next year, we'll have manufacturing facilities here in the U.S. As you can imagine, there's U.S. work that requires U.S. presence in manufacturing. So we're looking to stand those up by the third quarter next year. So I was going to give you a basis of our company and talked about that, but also I think you might be interested in the small sat market. Dave was alluding to, and so was John. It's a great disruptive market. It's new and up and coming. It's like the new Silicon Valley and stuff. There's being a lot of money poured into it. People are very interested in where things are going. So it's an award-winning NewSpace company. Like I said, we merged in 2015, but both started early. I was working with Surrey Satellite in 2008. They got me intensely involved in small satellites. We stood up the U.S. Operations in Denver for Surrey U.S. until I helped get sold to General Atomics. So General Atomics would get in the small satellite market as well and bought them out, and they're still in the same location in Denver. Let's see. Also, Craig Clark, the founder of Clyde Space in Glasgow, is also a former Surrey employee in the UK, and was in power systems. He got his start with Clyde doing batteries, power systems, and stuff, and then just eventually grew up to the point where now we're doing full missions together. So we're both Clyde Space had its first nanosite launch in 2014. So we're not just doing subsystems, we're doing full-up satellites and missions. And we've had thousands of subsystems in other people's CubeSats, universities, all the way up to other people, other systems in space. 40% of the business is in the U.S. We're going to be growing that even bigger. And no reported failures, which is huge in space because there's very few repairmen that are hard to come by. Let's see, we've got about 120 employees now. And we do subsystems and missions. We've got vertically integrated. Now, I'd like to make the analogy is when the gold rush was on in the U.S., it wasn't necessarily the great person to be going out and getting gold, but the person, someone who picks and shovels. So, as you know, NewSpace is still in its infancy, and there's not a lot. There's a lot of very interesting constellations and concepts to use the new capability of small CubeSats to make money. And a few have succeeded so far, and I believe there's only one constellation of small sats that's actually in the black. It's Orbitmuse. But there's several new, very interesting concepts coming up. One of which is one I would have thought of, which is Hawkeye 360. They're doing signal intelligence by sending out groups of three, let's say there are 27 CubeSats out, so they can identify transmissions from the ground as well as geolocate them because they've got three of them located. That becomes a very interesting prospect for some people to find out that kind of information. And now another thing I would have thought may to be done in small sats, which is synthetic aperture radar. I didn't think that they had a big enough aperture, big enough. CubeSat's always been limited by how much power you can get out of them or how much downlink you can get down from them, or not enough aperture for a big instrument to make them useful. But that's all changing now because a lot of people are investing in one, making the subsystems much more capable of getting a finer pointing satellite, or getting more data down, or getting more power, or expanding it on folding to get you bigger, better apertures. It's a pretty creative thing out there in that area. These are some of the people we've dealt with who are making those big strides. We're not only, like I said, moved up from being subsystem providers, so now we're having satellite as a service. We've had people come to us who don't want to make the satellites anymore. They say, I just want you to build it, put it up, let us get the data from it. So now we're moving into that area, which is going to open up the market for people who don't want to make their own satellites, to people who just want to look at data as a business. So now we're getting into that. We've got our first big contract for that going now. We should be announcing some more pretty soon. So now people go, okay, I want to do this. So we do a mission development plan, figure out how to do it, we design it, we get it launched, get it insured, we get it to last a long time, and then we get the data back down. We have a couple ground stations around the world, 3 of them, Glasgow, and out in the Middle East area and Southern California right now, which is likely to grow. But we also contract and establish ground station providers and have entered into a agreement with people like Atlas. So we're going to talk about some of the missions, and I'll tell you about why these are interesting, and the way the small satellites are going. Kepler's one of the systems. Within a very short period of time, they came to us. They have a K-band antenna and Internet of Things mission concept. We said we could get that up and flown for X amount of money. They liked it, and so we're flying 2 of their CubeSats, and they're a commercial business based in Canada. We're going to be making money on that, not just a demo. Small sats and CubeSats used to be a great way to give university students experience of getting a satellite mission up, and it still is. It's very valuable for that because now they don't have to design all their hardware. They can go out and buy the subsystems and get it done, and a student can do the design, do the software, get it flown in a short period of time, a lot better than it used to be. People would graduate before they had a chance to see their own missions go. And you need that full loop rotation feedback to be good for the space industry and things like that. So we're glad that's happening. This next one is NSLCom, basically a company out of Israel. They have a really high downlink system, 2 gigabits, which is very high for a CubeSat. And they said, we want to make this. It's a deployable dish system, and it has a really high downlink, but we want to pay you, get it up and fly it. This is another area where CubeSats and small sats had been really critical in the past, but didn't have to make money, which was in demo systems. You need to get a flight heritage. So he needed us to get this flight heritage for us. So he's paying us to get this up and flown and demonstrated, and then he starts his whole subsystem business based on that. So we take a 6U satellite, we make it deploy, open up, it has a feed system and a deployable reflector dish. And if it works, it'll get about 2 gigabits down for a 6U satellite. And a 6U is roughly, when I say U, that's 10 centimeters. So it's 10 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 30 centimeters. This, as you can see, this will deploy out, give the reflector, and downlink there. So that was a turnkey system where we operate it, send it up, and get the data down for them. FireSat, it's another interesting one that was financed by the UK Space Agency in cooperation with the South African group. A lot of ideas have come up about detecting fires from space, and actually there's a bunch of SIBRs data from the Air Force. If you can get it, it helps do that too, but it's classified, it makes it difficult. They're looking for a way to exploit it for understanding what wildfires are around the world. And other people put up concepts for commercial satellites, but the sticking point was always limited on the payload. The payload usually needed to be an infrared sensor, a cryogenic cooling system, which mandated it had to be size X, so you couldn't shrink it anymore. This is a novel concept, and an example of how people are making smaller payloads so they can take advantage of CubeSats or small sats and their cheap launch capabilities so that they can close the business case a lot simpler and easier. As we all know, launch is at least half the cost of a mission. So this payload just looks at a spectrometry line of potassium. So the fires are burning potassium, and that gets excited. It emits a narrow band potassium spectrometer. So it doesn't need to be cool. It's not an infrared sensor. And this is going to be a demo to see if that's really a useful instrument that can detect fires with a 3D CubeSat. Along the same lines, NASA, we're doing Picasso and Seahawk. If you've heard of C-color instruments like C-WIFs, very large instrument, very expensive, takes a long time to get. You need an even bigger satellite bus in which to fly it. Ocean color is very important because if you got phytoplankton, health of the oceans, pollution, red bloom, algae bloom, that kind of stuff, and NOAA likes to really keep track of that for ocean health and safety issues. Well, now they get an instrument that they can shrink down on these 2 missions to fly on CubeSats. If they get that and make that work, that's a game changer as well, because the expense bus size that you need to fly a C-WIFs instrument, which is 100 times, I think it's at least 100 times larger than this, and this can perform ideally, if it works properly, the same data for a minute portion of the cost of the whole mission. So this is why small sats, CubeSats are being disrupted. If these things prove out to be to be effective in what they do, you can fly a bunch of these. So you may not get as much resolution as you get, but you can get revisits, which you can be over the same spot several times. For Spire or Planet companies, they have a lot of these satellites up and flying, and they can revisit the same spot in a period of time, which if you have very large, expensive monolithic satellite, we don't get that. Yes?
What orbits are these targeted for?
Most of these are sun sync. And one of the reasons on that is, I'm not sure about Kepler, but the sun sync ones, because that's one of the most plentiful available ride shares. See, we won't be buying a rocket for any of these because we have to ride share someone else because it doesn't justify the rocket. So that's the most plentiful. But when they get out, there's other ones you can put in low inclination, equators, stuff like that, where FireSat might be a little more useful. Or you just, there's a band of humanity on the Earth that's between these 2 areas, and that's where you get, that's most interesting area, like 40 degrees inclination. So I don't know exactly where they are, but we can find that out. Now that we've made so many of these CubeSats, we're coming on to a standard CubeSat offering. Now here we also have the Swedish side from the Uppsala side is a 50 kilogram bus. It's less than that, but it's made to be a bus that's 50 kilograms and hold 20 to 30 kilograms of payload. The first mission is going to be going up next year, and it has some air blow and spectroscopy missions, 2 instruments. One pointed at the limb of the Earth as it orbits around, one that goes down. And they're going to do some atmospheric studies that haven't been done by NASA or ESA, that they're sorely needing some data. This was partially funded by, or mostly funded by the Swedish National Space Association as a way to further Swedish company interest in space. So it's a joint project by AAC Microtec and ÅAC Sweden together. So we got a standard bus out of that. So we go everywhere from a 1U bus, 10 kilometers or 10 centimeters on the side, 10 centimeters on the side, to a 50 kilogram bus. Once you get above designation of 18 or 27U, it becomes, people talk about it more in mass than they do in volume. So just, as I told you before, Clyde Space got started in power systems for CubeSats. Saw a big need for that market as it was growing in universities. Agencies were finding the usefulness of this, not only just for demo or training or everything else. So they started developing other parts so they could provide the bus as well as that. So battery was a big thing. They've been selling a lot of those to everybody, power conditioning, and they have a card with 3-axis reaction wheels, change the attitude. The NSLCom bus with 6U, they got big and heavy, and they didn't have time to redesign the reaction wheel card to go to bigger reaction wheels because they needed more agility. So they just put on another slice. They put 6 wheels on it, so 2 of those 3-axis wheel cards. They do the command and data handling, and systems that they offload are, TT&C data download. There's lots of those on the market that you can buy now for CubeSats. We may get into those or not, depending on how we meet our needs, but we tend to have a partner that we go to mostly for downlink and other RF items like that. We make the structure, you go on our website, and get prices on most of it, in order for all the different subsystems, or you can buy a whole satellite. So the typical satellites we're talking is down, starts down to 1U range. We don't sell many of those anymore. As you can see, it doesn't give us a lot of volume for payload. You got that very small payload fit in there, and the mass fraction of the payload, 20% of it is here. And then you go to the 3U, you get 50% mass payload fraction, which is nicer in organization. You get a more power, you get a more agility, you get and pointing capability, and you go like 6U, which is becoming a real big workhorse for us. And then we have designs on finishing up a 12U, and we did a 16U recently using the same system. And you can see the payload mass fraction goes up about 66% or so. So these are standard CubeSats made in Scotland from Clyde Space. Then we go to the NewSpace bus, which is made to be a very fine pointer. It has options, you can put in propulsion or this or that, but this one's made as a base bus to be a science instrument holding platform. As you can see, the blue payload to the ocean payloads to go on here. It's a very simple looking bus, just a solar panel and a base system, so it can be adapted for whatever types of instruments. It has a very fine pointing system. It uses a ring, a fiber optic gyro for very fine pointing, and that's kind of where we want to stay. Is everywhere from the 1U to 50 kilogram bus. Just make those better capable as the market goes on. So what's good with satellite? You can't get it launched. So we keep in touch with other launch people to get, because we don't know when we're going to launch. We bid something, we know when openings are going to be. We have to be opportunistic, because we won't be doing anything, I would say, within at least a year or two. We warrant a whole launch vehicle of our own. Now, as launch vehicle providers, there's a lot more startups there making small satellites, launch vehicles. We get closer and closer to buying a whole satellite, or a whole launch vehicle, so we can say, I want to go here on this date, and they go, whatever you want, you're paying the bill, right? But if you're going on someone else's launch and they got a little spot for you, you go when they go, or you don't go. So you have to be agile in knowing where these are, how much they cost, so we can give the customer an idea, okay, if we're going to get one of these, the earliest time you can do this is this and this, and it's roughly going to cost about that much. So we keep relationships up with a lot of the launch providers, and of course we adapt to different dispensers that are pretty standard around the industry. We also have handled insurance for missions, so we can get back in case the launch vehicle explodes or something happens. And then we do integration, launch acquisition, and we do ground operations. So running the Kepler satellites right now for them, and we'll be doing more of those for ones in the future. And we can give you access to the internet, get updates as you like, lease out other stations that have different reach or downlinks more often, and things like that. So we worked with Swedish Space Corporation, CubeSat, and we have an agreement to replace just recently with us. We also, one of the things we can offer, since we're based in Sweden, the UK, and the US, it opens up us an ability to get certain licenses. So you have to file with the FCC to get downlink and uplink certifications when you're transmitting, and it's really paid off for us. Like I said, we started off with subsystems. Both companies, we find out, AAC Microtec and Clyde Space, had great expertise in power conditioning systems. And we had a little bit of overlap there, but it turned out not to be a bad thing, because we needed extra guys to do power systems, because it's making a lot of money in those, and it delivered, I was surprised when I delivered over 1 kilowatt system, even though we're a small sat. Delivered a 1 kilowatt system to Air Force One in one time. And we have great expertise in those areas. This unit here is also flying, would be flying on sort of workspace out there, it's the class satellite, and we'll be flying this, the same one that's going on the NanoSat bus. Battery systems, solar arrays, make our own solar arrays systems. And what an interesting thing about that is that if we're making our own solar arrays and we have our own deployment systems, we can also put loops of wire in there so we can do our own magnetometers. So GGF tutor and desaturate reactions as we're flying around versus paying for the extra mass of having iron core magnetometers. And then this unit down here exemplifies some of the Swedish product. The Swedish product brought, even though they hadn't flown their own mission yet, built next year, they're developing computer systems and telemetry systems, computer boards. And the unique thing about them is they're radiation tested to a relatively high level for small satellites. And you can get them in a really fast time frame. We're talking about 3-month delivery, 35K per board, and they're fully tested at 30K range, which is relatively for them. They have their own testing facility in Sweden, and that's been quite a great niche product that's also flying on the York systems as well as some other ones. So I hope I didn't go through it too fast, but I'm all up for questions and stuff. It's the small sat market. I'm glad to be in it, and I see a lot of neat things coming up as these new entries into commercial space are opening eyes. And the interesting thing is civil space, NASA has been trying to adapt it and do more and more with instruments. So people are trying to shrink instruments down to take advantage of this where it makes sense and move on. And if you've seen people like Lockheed and Boeing have been trying to figure out how to deal with this, because it's kind of coming up and eating a lot of ends of their market and potentially taking a lot of their revenues that they depend on. So Boeing has lined themselves with Millennium Space that was bought recently. Lockheed has lined themselves with tieback. And so I think we're considering to see more of that. It makes it so they can still compete in the small satellite areas. So, questions about marketing? What? Except from him.
So I was just curious, on your last bus that you manufactured, or that you mentioned, that's radiation certified. That's flight heritage. That's a proven bus. That's been on orbit. I missed that last part of it.
Yes, it's flown. Those have flown on a couple of missions.
So the reason I'm asking is, with this massive proliferation, this massive race to, the mega constellation, is the thought process behind that design to accentuate and to go above and beyond the crowding LEO to a higher, non-LEO, altitude and inclination to get above and beyond that, and you're selling that radiation certification based upon that? And are you guys estimating a large growth spurt there?
Right. So we look at it a couple of ways. We were thinking about testing things. One, we had facilities to test those with very little cost, so we designed it. So we're thinking that the CubeSat market, which those form factors will fit in. What's funny is we haven't sold in the CubeSat, we're sold in bigger satellites. Is that one, it'll give us longer reliable life in LEO, so it pays for itself a little bit there. And two, we transition to LEO and GEO for a limited lifetime at 30K rads. And then we also want to do cislunar and planetary to be considered for that. And it was a lot less NRE if we did it all on that first thing. So it pays off for our main market, which is LEO. And then we're actually bidding something now to go to GEO. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. Who else has got a good question? Market or company? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your presentation. A page full of questions. Question, I was interested, my IT background, the satellite to ground station, your methodology, what's the transmission methodology? I saw 2 slides, there was an S/X and a VHF, UHF. And then how do you guys handle checksums, encryption, right? The actual making sure that what was sent was legitimately sent from space, not somebody.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes we have encryption needs like 256, things like that. So we can adapt for that if needed. We use a CCSDS, the NASA standard, for most of the handshake protocols up and down. But there's always some, I can't remember what the other encryption is that we use, so no one else is talking to us already. Anything else that goes for something like that. So we do the main encryption that we use. 26 is or
AES.
AES, thank you. And we'll do 256 again.
I know NASA and MidServ made use of the delay tolerant networking. It's like TCP for space. TCP doesn't work on the Earth because the delay drops when you're going through space units. Right? You have that natural delay. Is any like that your equipment supporting any of that TCP stack?
Needing a transponder for interplanetary? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, you could use it anywhere really. It's just basically a TCP stack that supports long delays. So if you were communicating from a rover to the surface or something, a TCP packet would time out, but it supports that.
Yeah, good point. I'm not sure. I have to get an answer for you on that.
And I have one last question.
Sure. Is it easier than your last
yes.
one? Good.
You mentioned all the different companies, CubeSat and NSICOM, Kepler, Picasso, all these great ideas. I'm just curious, what's like some of the bad ideas that when companies come to you, they're like, hey, let's do this, and you're like, no, like that's not ready, or we just won't do that. Like, what's some of the things you commonly turn down or say, hey, we're just not going to do that?
You see, people without money.
That's true.
That's one of them is to have a satellite, just to have a satellite. We've heard that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of firsts. Surrey made a big business out of what they call know-how technology transfer, where people put the satellite just for the exercise of doing it, almost like the technology we got from doing space systems from NASA. But it gave them an infrastructure, it gave them ground systems, it gave them training to go along with that. So it's not. So I hesitate to say that that's a bad thing, but usually I like to see a commercial business case, so they can make money at it too. So it's a reinforcing type of thing. What else has come up? It's not a bad thing, but that's some things we completely different industry that was it's very cyclical for them. It goes up and down, but they're in the data business. Not any of the same customers that we have in space, but they wanted to be in a data business that wasn't cyclical, so that they were diversified. So they said, "Could you get me into the space data business?" I had a couple ideas, and so they're very interested in just doing it, investing the money, put in the space data infrastructure that they can make money on in the long term. I thought that was very innovative thinking, and so we hope to do something for them next year. And it benefits us because this experience it sets up a whole space data business for us. But if I think of a bad idea, nothing comes to mind right now. But it's all ideas are good, right? But I'm sure I've heard some good ones sometimes. Because I'm asking, like, okay, how do you make money with that? And you don't have to make money. There's a demo system that proves something. Sometimes I've had trouble seeing the business case on some of this. I still don't understand the business case for Spider. They put a lot of stuff up. We used to make a lot of buses for Spider. Right across the hallway from Clyde. And I don't want them to fail. But I had trouble seeing. They got a lot of money that leverage put into it. They have a lot of money they have to make to do that. I want all space business to be successful, because if you don't, then it sours the pool for investment from venture capitalists in the future. So if I think of more bad, I'll let you know. I've seen that. So. That's right.
I'll second the appreciation. Thanks for.
Oh, glad to do it. I was honored David asked me to come, and I'm glad you all stayed.
One of the things you mentioned, your role in the position is to build manufacturing.
Yes.
Capacity.
Yes.
Is that
Hopefully in Illinois.
great? Is that a capacity augmentation, or is that domestic sourcing?
It ends up being capacity augmentation, but that's not why it's being done.
That's a better answer. That means
Yes, we'll have more. And people, a lot of bids lately are people that are innocent. How fast could you ramp up? How many could you make per month? We've had that question a couple of times. So that helps with this. If they don't care if the sourcing is sweet. Glasgow in the U.S. The primary reason for doing the U.S. manufacturing right now is we don't necessarily need it, but for certain customers that will require U.S. manufacturing, either for U.S. content or software certification, anti-spoofing requirements like that. We have some customers that are very leery of having anything with software going to U.S. satellites. That certainly needs on our customers. So we plan on helping getting into that market with some of their larger primes. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Excellent presentation.
Oh,
thanks a lot.
I didn't say too much, did I?
Would you say something about flying swarms and if that's reality? And
Swarms, the same thing as big constellations.
Yep, the big constellations that separating out the engineering into different payloads and all that. Is that the reality of that? And
The first benefits is small sats. I only touched up on it. I'm glad you asked about this. Was you get a lot of benefits from putting up lots of small satellites that can do similar to a single big one was that you can lose a launch, like Orbitmuse. They lost a launch, but they still up and they're making money right now. You get resiliency of getting those up. You don't have all your chickens or all your eggs in one basket, right? So there's the first benefit of resiliency. And a couple drop out, 10%, which is really high for space. But you can still get started and still finish through the business case. And put up more later on the right ships. That's one benefit. The other thing is, and it's very important for different things I'm seeing with doing data services for NOAA, for weather and things like that. They not only need the data quickly down, they need it from as many spots around the world as possible, as quickly as possible, instead of one big giant GOES satellite or another NPP satellite that takes several years and overruns and handles and gets sent down. Now you've got a bunch of these that you split up and use smaller instruments, doing it cheaper, and you get quicker revisit to the same spot, and you get more data all around. Lose one, it's a big deal. So revisit is the big thing to get with swarms and constellations. And then the thing that Hawkeye 360 gets is they get triangulation because they've got more and more together to figure out where that GPS spoofer is on the ground in Russia, okay, or Ukraine or something. I think those are the ones that first come to mind. Does that make sense? Right. And then the Hawkeye ones are really information on things like Plan Inspire. They have a lot of, but they're not necessarily information. They kind of put it in orbit, they're ready to go. And the other benefit of doing, instead of one big expensive launch every decade or something, Plan Inspire, they change the engineering as in different things. So they're able to, this is having a problem in orbit. So we'll improve that and make gradual improvements. And we call that, we embrace that at Surrey too as evolution versus revolution. So it's a lot less, it scares a lot less people if you're just making a whole new satellite. And, don't try to go to NASA and say, hey, I'm going to put a great satellite for you, and everything news on it, you're like, that's very nice, I'll see you later, right? They don't like it. They like heritage, everything going on. They don't like the risk. Enough? Yes, sir.
Good presentation.
Oh, good.
I'm fascinated at how fast we go from concept up to space. One thing I'm wondering is these different launch providers, like, do they usually have like rideshare options already available? Do you find that you have to like book a spot even before you have a customer lined up just to meet the schedule?
It's a good question because that's another big change with small satellites in the industry. CubeSats are brought up because they can be thrown on larger launch vehicles without disrupting the whole big satellite and things like that. But then, so you've got, they brought on a company called Spaceflight, which is at the most extreme, is buying a whole rocket themselves and they're selling off all those spaces on it. And they're making money over and above what they paid on the rocket launch. They're brokering every little spot on it. I keep getting bugged by Phil at Spaceflight. It was, okay, when are you going next? What do you got? I got some spaces for you. I got spaces here, here, and here, and these times. And they really got it going on. If they can buy the rockets and sell the space on it, they don't need one big monolithic system to sell it. SpaceX started selling the extra space on the rockets, getting little launch rings here and there, but it can't be bothered with that. So Spaceflight said, I'll take that on. I'll sell that extra space. And they're doing it. ULA didn't adopt it very much with their their Deltas and their Atlas 5s, but I think they're going to change their mind. If you look at all the new rocket vendors that are coming out, they're designed to do a bunch of different payloads. The Falcon Heavy that's coming up, or no, even the new ones that's going to launch out of Vandenberg, the first space flight is going to be the 19th. We've got one of our CubeSats, I think it's FireSat, is going up on that. And we've got a space on there. They made an accommodation. They have those little launch tubes that we showed down there so we can shoot it out. PSLV from India is out of this big Israel with a company there. They shot out more space debris than has ever been done before. And that's lovely when you say it. But I always worry about stuff bumping into stuff. It's a lot of space. But so, and now NASA has just put out an RFI that we responded to as well. And they said, you know, we're buying all these expensive ULA launches for programs like MPP, big satellite thing. And they had an article in the Space News that showed Discover, a little bitty, it's not a little bitty satellite, but this big, in a ferry that was this large. There was so much that was going to L1, and it was so much throw mass that they could have put so much more up. But the Discovery guys, mission to go, I don't want anything else. That's extra risk. That's something that might blow up or a mishap. So I'm not interested in taking on the risk. It doesn't benefit me. So NASA as a whole now has said, we're buying all these expensive launches. We're going to put an ESPA ring, ESPA Grande, if you've heard of these, between the payload and the rocket. And we're going to give these slots away, free launches for missions and satellites that can provide valuable data to NASA. And that was very smart. And now they've got the approval to put those rings on all the future launches, and they're giving them away if you can give data back to NASA. And they listen to what data they were interested in, and I'm sure they'll be interested in other ones. So that's a very good question. It's something we all got to take advantage of, because that was the whole purpose of these small CubeSats, was not to couldn't do a whole bunch to make that close business case they can now, but they can be launched very, very cheaply, which was a huge cost in satellite missions. Did I answer your question? Yes. All right. Thanks. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So I'm just
Do you
curious.
still have a microphone?
He tried to take away the one away from me. So the last question was actually really great, and it caused me to want to ask this question, and it's really more focused around refresh rates. So you have Spaceflight Industries, NeoStella, Planet Labs, Spire, and so on and so forth. You have all of these constellations that are launch operation, dependent. So, on a refresh rate, so you look at these mega constellations now.
When you say refresh rate, you mean putting new satellites up?
Putting new satellites up.
Okay, not a revisit. Okay.
Right.
That's it.
So, being the fact that you guys are, manufacturer, and you have a pretty good finger on the pulse of what's going on in the industry, do you see a major bottleneck coming with these mega constellations plus the refresh rates? And if you do, where's the relief? Where's the pressure point? Where's the pressure relief out of that? Do you see one?
Yes, well, one, if all these come through, yes. But if you look at the Teal report or the forecast, these big bubbles, they always push out, and never come to fruition. So I think the launch, especially with all the new launchers coming out to take a lot of the small stuff, I don't guess there's going to be a bottleneck, because it seems like all the space, it seems like Israel, with the PSLV and everyone, they seem to be selling everything. But I'm not seeing anybody I can't get one soon enough. At least I haven't seen it yet. So, but if these constellations come as they're promising, and it never happens in space, never. Nothing ever pulls into the left, and nothing ever comes out early, and the forecasts never work. So I really don't think so. Just my experience in space. But I think that if there is, it really will enable a lot of these new launchers that are coming out, like Firefly, Rocket Lab, everybody else like that. And they're poised to take advantage of that. And so I hope they have all that business, because I'd like to see them all succeed as any satellite manufacturers, because if we can get those launch costs down, then it's just a boon to our industry and a boon to the space economy. Thanks for the question.
Talking about bottlenecks, do you see any bottlenecks in space in terms of orbits?
which our current rockets will have a saturation of orbits that are in use, and a safe enough space for dedicated orbits.
Not yet. There's a lot of space in space. Orbital debris is probably the biggest problem right now for determining that. Now, below 500, it cleans itself. But I think it's going to be, like you said, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem above 500 if things don't fall out in 25 years. You get right. 60 questions. And so that kind of limits space and stuff. Now, there's a lot of launches going on in sunset right now. So if anything else is going to bottleneck up, it's going to be sunset spots. And the Air Force is thinking of a Martian hands here. I'm stopping, taking care of everything, reporting to everybody, giving them calls over there. It's that being starting to be done commercially. And it's going to be more important to put more stuff out there that can't be ordered. I've heard rumors that NASA and other people are going to be putting rules instead of the orbit 25 years, the orbit 5 years instead, which is very large. That adds some cost to your bus. You have to be awake, you have to put propulsion on, when you didn't have to before, just fall out naturally, or put sails on, or drags on, or things that ensure that. So that would be a big change from 25 to 5. But I believe it's the debris. The sunset's probably going to be the tightest if it comes to it. Everything else is pretty open. Anything above that, the radiation starts picking up. It's not as popular. GEO is already jam-packed. You have to have an active guy to get an orbit to go there anyway, and that's not a small sat area. Although there was a lot of small sat missions being bid to go out and look around the GEO orbit. So be looking for those. And, it's going to be hairy with licensing. Okay, I'm just going to go out with GEO belt. I'm not going to transmit. I'm just going to look around. And you're like, what? So that's all I know on that. That's just my guess. That makes sense?
And just a follow-on question, that in the GEO belt, your satellites have to basically find a slot in GEO. I'm sorry, to the follow-on question. So satellites in the GEO orbit have to basically license for their particular slot. And you mentioned that the sun synchronous orbit is going to become the next bottleneck. Do you see licensing in SSO being a similar solution there?
No, I don't know. But if it does become a problem, someone's going to have to do something like that. SSO below 500 is probably going to be a problem. But as I say, it cleans itself. But I never thought about licensing in SSO orbits. So far, no one's ran into problems yet. But it seems like a lot of stuff's going on there. Just because it makes satellite designs easy, and it's really good for remote sensing missions. And you put up a good thing about GEO is GEO stuff never comes down. It just goes out to a parking graveyard. So those are always going to stay out there. So you've got to look out for those. But it's big space, right?
For the presentation, quick question. What is the timeline to create the CubeSat? And then the timeline to launch and then bring it back? Or
The shortest we've ever done from so it came to us. Kepler, they had the payload already, and they said, "We'll achieve this one." So we redesigned our standard bus 3 years. We got it up and flown within a year. That's very short for a typical space mission. But you're going to see those timelines get drawn in. It's going to be another benefit of small sats. It's not only lower cost, fit on a lot of launch vehicles, but they're going to be done in a shorter time frame. Because if you have a standard bus, fit on there, then you don't have to move stuff around so much. So the quickest we've done it is a year. We're trying to do it shorter since our bus is standard. We're building standard products to go along, and we're getting more launch opportunities. Hopefully that will be a bottleneck. Because typically most space missions, look at a guy, I don't think it was he wanted to get up in 6 months. But he asked us, give us Saturday, ready to go. I said, yes. Because I need up in 6 months. I was like, that. Was it tough or something? No, I know there's no launch availability for a Saturday that size within 6 months. And that's what a bottleneck. So the smaller you make it, the more bottleneck you have. But then again, you have to weigh that off against capability. Does that answer your question? All right.
I have one more question.
I'm sorry.
How much negotiation can you have with the design between the manufacturer, you guys, and the client?
between the capability of the satellite and so if we need to redesign something or make something different?
Yeah, or say, I don't think this design that you gave us is going to work or is feasible for us to manufacture.
Right, so that's usually negotiated at the front end. We talk with the customer in the situation you're talking about. They ask them to bring us a payload. I need to get this flown, blah, blah, blah. It needs so much power. I need you to get this accurately. You need this much downlink data from it. Okay, that fits. Oh, getting that much data down? I'm going to have to expand my downlink system. And we work that out ahead of time so that the design will go forward. If we work on a contract, the contract doesn't get started until they agree that we have something that's feasible to meet all their requirements, unless there's a problem. And we tend to go out to subcontractors or other people that have these subsystems that can handle these better pointing, better star tracker, better this and that. That's all figured out before the contract goes because the customers don't any type of risk like that. They'll never say, we think we can do it. We've said that before, but we're just talking about it. We go, okay, you signed down to doing it, and then we're never done. And then there's insurance to make sure it does perform the product.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sharp crew out there. No more for him, he's too smart. Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you so much again for the presentation. It was very comprehensive, very useful. So I guess my question maybe be more generic, but I was wondering, there are so many CubeSat manufacturers right now in the market that I can think of, CubeSat and Lucanian Technologies, for example. So my question was very simple. What sets your company apart? What are the solutions that you provide?
What's our discriminators?
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Good question, because it is getting a very competitive market. And the whole point of using CubeSats at small size is to drive cost access to space. That's our plus. We can do the whole thing for them for low cost, more than anyone else can. We can provide a plus for a low cost thing. So this satellite as a service makes it so much easier for them. And we can do it, and we have been doing it. So Lucanian Technologies is a great company. I know people who work there, and they make top-of-the-line stuff and do stuff that just you don't always need top-of-the-line stuff. If someone's got a year mission, you can do that. It's only needs to point so accurate. Blue Canyon does, they do some of the best pointing in small size right now. And we looked at even using star trackers for us when we need that. But we don't drive all that cost in to start with. We start with a simple bus design. So we have the lowest commodity price. We just want to be a commodity and modify the application. Down in space, there's a lot of great competition out there. So we're just trying to see it down so we can offer people space for lowest price. That's what we should do. Plus we have kilts. Anybody else? Great crowd. I wouldn't want to say that. I was never able to be a comedian when I was a It's a great crowd. Good energy. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate
And thanks again, Brent. I really appreciate you coming out this evening. And appreciate all the good questions as well. So next, we're going to have John Carson come up and he will tell you a little bit about the educational programs that TSTI is providing in conjunction with Orbitmuse's master's program. So, John.
Thanks. We've bandied about a lot of orbits and things, and for those of you that don't know, orbits are sun sync. Anybody know what sun sync is? Polar orbits. There's the sun, right? And you're always kind of pointed at it. And it's called the noon and midnight orbit as well, because you can see it at a couple of different times during the day. The Russians have one called Lanaya, and it just extends it out so they can take long looks back at the Earth. It's interesting stuff. But yeah, the sun sync stuff is interesting. And like I said, there's a lot of people going to it. And it seems like the darling of those sun sync things are the CubeSats, right? Trying to do the 6U especially. Anyway, so come back down to Earth a little bit here. And so, yes, TI, teaching science and technology, that's what we do. teach all over the world, and climbing the ladder to space can be difficult, but again, climbing that ladder, you need a boost. You need to figure out how you train people and what's applicable to your company and your products, right? So we do again this training all over the world, and when you look at this, it's really about things like foundation establishment and project start, capabilities enhancement, skills acceleration. Again, that these things that have to get people on the right page and thinking the right way. So, and that also comes back to how do you develop your products and applications that get back to the stakeholder, right? Because you're always having to answer to stakeholders, no matter what, right? So how do you make a profit? Those things. Consequently, TSTI, we wrote the books. You guys probably, if you're space people, you have SMAD on your desk, Space Mission Analysis and Design. We're the guys that wrote that. Yeah. Should have Jerry sign a copy for you. So when you look at, we do a lot of on-site as well as online courses. You come to our site, you see all that stuff. Normally when we start programs, we give you the online training. You guys figure things out. And then the on-site stuff, we come and we will develop and tailor programs for you to get ahead of the curve. And we do coaching as well as consulting, and we'll be talking about some of these new projects that startups that you're trying to get done, and again, how you develop the workforce, how you retain people, how do you make people want to stay, right? That's a big one, and so that's what we're looking at. These are some of the courses that we do and train. And you can see the applied space systems engineering and the systems V&V, verification and validation. One of the key things with these two courses is that it actually is a way that you can instill systems engineering thinking across integrated teams. Because you'll have a lot of companies that have these integrated teams. They don't think the same way. They don't do systems engineering the same way, and that costs a lot of money. Come into these companies, and it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and you're not doing training that is based on the issues that they have at hand and what you actually need to do to step ahead. So that's a big one. Applied model-based systems engineering is it is the new state-of-the-art ways to go out and do your project engineering and technical management. And I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up with a program. So the MBSC, of course, is a great way to again get everybody on the same page. So you'll see these other things that are space mission ops, the integrated CubeSat. I'm going to talk about that as well. That is right up Brent's alley here, and mission design workshop and central systems engineering. So you see, but we teach all over the world. We just talked with the Nigerian Space Agency and all these folks in Angola. People that need operators, and they also want to test people. They want to make sure that you can do the job once you get through training and things like that. School and college, universities only do so much. But when you're talking about new entrants into the space field as well as seasoned professionals, you need continued training. You need to continue looking at things because technology changes so quickly. As with the systems engineer, Brent just pointed that out, right? When you're going and you're looking at these systems, how do you understand and how do can you ask the right questions and figure this stuff out, right? And go forward and train your people. So again, we do a lot of the red team proposals. We even help write proposals. If you guys haven't been in the space business and dealt with the government, it's probably a good thing because when you talk about getting when you make a proposal to the government for a satellite or any kind of proposal, it usually takes about 14 months for them to make a decision. Builds with Hughes or Boeing and Lockheed and L'Oreal and those folks, it usually takes a couple of years, 18 months usually is about to go to, and they all have gates that they have to go to. They get paid at those gates. It's a little bit different than some of the things I'm going to talk about here in a second with milestone reviews. So when you go out and you want to deal with the government, and you have to have DCAA, the Defense Auditing Agency, that come out there and they see that you have a accounting system that fits into that. You know, there's all these things that you really have to be aware of and make sure that you're in coordination with them and talking to them. And they take a long time too. You go in there and you say, okay, we need to have an audit. They say, okay, we'll schedule you for a year. And so going out and bidding and trying to get things stood up, there's a lot of steps to be able to take. It's not impossible, but you just have to be aware of those things when you go out and start bidding with the government and what that actually means. But there's also some really great things that you guys could be working on now. SBIRS, the Small Business Innovative Research, things that's like $150,000 for 6 months, and they're looking for research ideas. And then you get, that's phase 1, phase 2 is about $500K, and that means you go out there and you're actually going to build something or deliver something to them. And then the third phase is what's called IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So that means that you find a customer and the sky's the limit. Okay, STTR is dealing with universities and having a university research type of thing. That's a great way to go out there and build capability, bring your idea to the market, those types of things. Okay, so those are a couple other things. Again, incubator workshops are a great way to get everybody on the same page and get your idea to where it can be reviewed and people look at and see the problems with it. Okay. So here's ASCEND, our Applied Small Sat CubeSat Engineering Development Program. We use the ISAT desktop satellite. It sits on a desktop, and it has all of the mechanisms that you need. The attitude determination, power systems, electrical systems, all that great stuff. The payload is in there. And we go through and we match that to milestone review. So when I was talking about the milestones, the gates and all that, this is a little bit different when you go in and you look at phase A, pre-phase A, and phase A to phase D. And that means that pre-phase A is like the conceptual stuff. Now, does everybody know what TRLs are? Technical readiness levels, right? And technical readiness levels are a NASA device, the way they say, from an idea all the way up to flight. There is what's called the Valley of Death. It's between a TRL 6 and 7, and that means that you're getting ready to fly. And so whether or not your project will work or not is based on these TRLs, and they fund you that way. A lot of things don't get through that Valley of Death. Okay, but a lot do. And as you go from the breadboard and the ideas of the breadboards, and now you've made these tests on it and go forward, then you have a good chance of getting through those TRLs. Consequently, with this program, what we do is that we set it up so that when you're going through and you're looking at all the interfaces, right? Interface control drawings and all those types of things that you need to know, you come in and you look at it and you say, okay, we're going to go from our concept and in phase A, which is the systems review requirements, the SRRs, right? And that's systems requirements review, dyslexic. And you go to the next phase, which is preliminary design review, and critical design review, then V&V. You saw our courses with the space systems verification and validation. And a lot of times you have an independent V&V, and somebody else with clean eyes takes a look at it and says, well, that's stupid. Say that. But what they do is they come through and they go, okay, we have problems here and there's issues. And then operations, we have to do a fly-off. So this whole program of doing CubeSats and understanding, especially if you have, okay, I have this thing that I want to make these boards for a CubeSat, and go out there and work those things and understand what that all means. That's where that all comes in. But it's really a comprehensive program to go into. So anyway, that's one of the things that we're offering. We do this all over the world, like I was saying. So I think that's about it. Here's our illustrious, executive guys for TSTI. And Wiley Larson is one of the key guys. Well, you look at the space series of books, that's all these courses that you saw. And it's a great starting place. Jerry is one who wrote Understanding Space, and so SMAD comes out of that and all these other things. But these are all the guys that kind of made up TSTI and started it. But Wiley was a big one that did that stuff. So anyway, that's about it for me. Any questions? Oh, come on. All righty then. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. We look forward to the educational programs in conjunction with our community development partnership with Orbitmuse and mHUB. So as I mentioned before, we have t-shirts.
Hey Dave, before you go there, is there a first step planned for Orbitmuse and mHUB? What should we look for in that partnership first?
So the partnership is active now. If you want to join Orbitmuse Habitat, we actually have a pod of 6 reserved desks available here. And so you just need to talk to Tammy and sign up. And then you will have access to the, not only the space, you're already a member here, so that's not a big deal for you, but you'll have also access to the master's program, so all of the educational content, and also the Boost, which is the funding fintech solution as well. So it's available now, it's active now. All you need to do is sign up. Any other questions? So as I started to say, we have t-shirts. Isn't that a great looking t-shirt for Orbitmuse? So these are available for you. All you need to do is talk to Brendan in the back there and fill out the survey. So look forward to people signing up with Habitat and Orbitmuse and Space Chicago and mHUB. So next month we are going to have our event focused on investors, and this will look at what are the opportunities for investment in space, what is a good investment, what is not a good investment. So think about it this way. In 1995, you had the opportunity to invest in pets.com. Does anybody remember pets.com? If you invested in pets.com, I'm sorry. However, you also had the opportunity to invest in Amazon. Which one would you pick? Yeah. But how would you know in 1995? Did you know whether it would be Amazon or whether it would be pets.com? So we are bringing in Steve Jorgensen and Rich Godwin, both of Starbridge Ventures, and they will be talking to us about what is a good investment in space and what the investment landscape in the new space industry looks like. So we hope to see you all come out next month. That will be the second Thursday in December, which I believe is the 11th. I could be wrong about that, but it's the 13th. I'm being told it's the 13th. So December 13th, we look for you all to come out. I appreciate you coming, and we have the space for about an hour, so you're welcome to hang out, drink some more beer, please eat the food, and make new friends. Thank you.